What's good, everybody? Old Papa G here, and we got some more Shadowlands arena content. In this video, I'm going to go over a top 10 3v3 arena comp right now. Now that the AWC has finished off their third cup and has another new winner, because I'm pretty sure every single cup there was a different comp that won. In the latest one, Enhancement Shaman, Arms Warrior, and Holy Paladin was the winner. Turbo. A common team right now, especially with how much better Enhancement has gotten, especially with their off healing. So I felt like after the third cup, it was time to make another tier list for the top 10 3v3 comps. I'm also going to put in the description my latest double DPS 2v2 comp. I felt like doing that, especially because rumor has it that 20% dampening at the start of the game is going to come back. So I'll put that in the description if you're interested in checking that out. So the first thing that I want to go over, I actually didn't get this graph for Cup 3. I couldn't find it. Maybe it was because it was too recent. So I put up the latest one. And the Cup 1 and the Cup 2 are pretty much about the same. What this is, the tournament from all the pro players, and this is the top played DPS and the top played Paladins. Now, even with the recent nerfs to Holy Paladin, they still are way above the next healer. It's pretty much, it was just like this in the same way. So for healers, we have Holy Paladin way up top. Then all the way at the bottom at 10, you have Resto Shaman and Dis Priest. This is not where they placed, by the way. This is how many people played them. So keep that in mind. That doesn't mean anything. But once we drop off from here, we have literally 0 Resto Druids, 0 Mistweaver Monks, and 0 Holy Priest. To me, that's a bit of a problem that half of the healers aren't even getting any play. At least with Resto Shaman and Discipline Priest, they're at 10. Obviously, Holy Paladin is really good, so it makes sense why it's played a lot. But it would be nice to maybe get like 5, 5, and 1, 0. I understand like 1 not ever being as good, but you would think at least another healer would be relevant, but I guess not. Whatever. I know right now I have to give Blizzard the credit where it's due. They've been doing a lot of small frequent changes and making it that specs don't get too overpowered or too weak. Like, they're trying to find the middle ground for everything, so I appreciate it being done that way. So I know things will definitely be coming for Resto Druid and Mistweaver. Maybe not Holy Priest because they already have Discipline, but just in general. And now for the DPSs, we have Fire Mage. Obviously, it makes sense why Fire Mage just works with everything. Some of these niche picks like Rogue, Sub-Rogue, and Assassination Rogue, for the most part, could only play with a Mage. It's not like a lot of these other comps are like going out of their way to play with a Rogue other than a Mage. Whereas when you have Arms Warrior and Windwalker Monk, for the most part, almost every spec wants to play with you, especially in the ladder. So that's why it makes sense why they're so popular, because they bring a lot of utility or damage. So these three make perfect sense. Obviously Bounce Druid right now has some of the highest damage in the game. So again, to me, that's a no-brainer. Frost Death Knight has come a long way. I'm actually surprised to see it 5th on the usage list, but in reality, they are really, really good. I would feel like their only weakness is kind of their durability for a plate wearer, but they bring a lot of damage. They work really well with Arms Warrior. They work really well with Windwalker Monk. They work actually really well with other things too. Like, they are actually really good. As I mentioned with Sub-Rogue, for the most part, they're only teaming up with Mage Priest or Mage Holy Paladin, so it makes sense. But it makes sense why they're above 10 though, because there's so many RMPs. Then we have Shatter Priest, which again, this really shouldn't be a shock to anybody either. I would actually think it would be a little bit more, believe it or not, maybe in the 15 range, because it is really good. Now this one might be a shock for some people. We have Assassination Rogue. So Assassination Rogue actually in Cup 3 seen even more usage. But again, Sub still is supreme. It feels like Assassination is definitely lacking in multiple departments, so Sub is definitely still the preferred choice. But as in Cup 3, Peekaboo was even playing Assassination, so it's definitely good. It's definitely better than Outlaw at this point, and I do think it's about mid-pack. I really see it being in the B tier, but again, it only is going to pair up well with a Mage. And then lastly, we have, what is that, Elemental Shaman. Actually, this is another one. I feel like it should be a little bit more should be played more. I really am surprised that it's this low. But after this, it takes a huge dip, like, you know, basically no hunters or anything like that. So you could pretty much see the meta is pretty much established, and until more and more changes happen, I feel like this is probably the trend that you're going to see. So yeah, I just wanted to break this down a little bit so that you can understand the comps. So the first thing I'm going to do, so here's the top 10, and then here I picked 3 teams that, in my opinion, are just outside of the top 10, and I was going to do 5, but then I felt like it was really a top 15 then, so I figured 3 was the sweet spot. I am actually going to give you a 4 and 5 that I feel like they are just outside of the top 10 too. Like, any of these 3 are just as good as each other, and even the other 2 that I'm going to name but just not go into detail. That's really the whole thing. I'll let you know what they are, but I'm not going to go into elaborate detail on them because I don't want to make the video over 30 minutes long, and I wanted to give the statistics of what's being played in these pro tournaments. I felt like that was more important. So, let's get started. We're going to start off at the bottom, number 3. And just one other thing to mention, if I have, for example, this is the perfect example, Holy Paladin or Disc Priest, Holy Paladin is the preferred, but the Discipline Priest is still a good choice, and you could climb the ladder and be successful with it. So that's why I wanted to do it like that. So, first up in the honorable mentions, we have Feral Druid, Fire Mage, Holy Paladin, or Discipline Priest. So, on paper, this comp looks a little bit better than what it is, and kind of what I mean by that is you have the pretty much the best caster in the game, and as of recently, in my opinion, even after the AWC who won, which was Enhancement Shaman, I think, in my opinion, Feral Druid right now is probably the 4th best deep melee DPS in the game. I think it's just outside of the top 3, and I think if any more changes happen, they could make the top 3 in the S tier. So the only melee DPS I have above them is Arms Warrior, obviously, Windwalker Monk, obviously, and Retribution Paladin. Other than that, I actually think they're 4th. You could debate Enhancement, you could also debate Frost Death Knight, but I feel like Feral Druid is the 4th best. And like I said, if anything happens to those other specs, I think it'll actually go even further. So that's really the main reason why I wanted to go over this one. Obviously, Feral's one of those ones. It's kind of like Rogue. It only matches up with certain things. And I felt like it was nice to pair it up with something that's a little bit unorthodox and put it in the honorable mentions. So, for Holy Paladin or Disc would do well with this comp for actually completely different reasons. It's really situational. The Holy Paladin will offer much more defensives, where the Discipline Priest will bring more offensive utility. So it's really whatever you're deciding to go for. I actually think in this case, really either or can be really effective. The biggest weakness for this comp is actually the Feral, even though I just hyped them up. So they have no Mortal Strike effect, can only stun 1 target per kill attempt, maybe 2, but by me saying 2, they would have to get out of their form and cast follow-up CC with like Cyclone. So that's why I didn't say 2. Both Mages and Feral have better comps for themselves, but it's nevertheless a good comp. I definitely think it's in the top 15. It might actually be exactly 15, and the 2 other ones that I'm just going to say are probably better than this one. But I definitely, like I said, it's worth a mention. It feels like it's one additional piece away from being higher on this list, like another stun. Like, I know it sounds so funny. Oh, what are you going to give him another stun? But I'm just saying in general, it feels like something that small away from being, that much better. Like, even if Mighty Bash's stun went up from 4 seconds to 6 seconds, I feel like that would be very, very impactful for this team. As I said, there's better comps for both of them, so that's kind of also why they are like 15th rather than, like, I don't know, 11th, because they're definitely outside of the top 10. All 3 have good defensives. Feral and Mage have insane burst, and Feral has great sustain damage from bleeds. Weakness is few or shorter kill opportunities and windows, so that would be their biggest weakness. I'm also, this is very early in the video, and like I said, all 4 of those specs are going to be brought up numerous times, so I like to spread the detail out for every single time they come up, and I don't want to give everything at once and right in the beginning, you know what I mean? So, next up, and I put S Priest to make it fit, is Shadow Priest, Affliction Warlock, Holy Paladin, or Resto Shaman. In this case, it's definitely the or situation. The Holy Paladin is definitely better than the Resto Shaman. So, this is called Shadow Play, for obvious reasons. This comp actually could swap Affliction with Destruction Warlock, but keep in mind, it won't run as smoothly, and it will definitely drop on the tier. It'll drop outside of the top 15. But I know there's some people that are more married to the spec rather than the class itself. So if you are a Destro Warlock player, you definitely could do well, but you will be outside of the top 15. Overall goal of this comp is to outpressure your opponent with consistent spread pressure, then look for kill opportunities with mind games and incredibly annoying unstable Affliction. The biggest weakness is facing a Holy Paladin, and it's basically a 1 in 3 chance. You're a 33% chance you're gonna play a Holy Paladin, so that really is their biggest weakness. And it comes from Shadow Resistance aura. If it wasn't for this, I actually think they might be in the top 10. But this is so crucial that you're so likely to play a Holy Paladin, and that's such a big deal. Like Shadow Resistance aura used to be like a very niche thing. It used to not be so like devastating either, but this kind of like eliminates this comp because of that ability. So I definitely think that needs to see a nerf. This absolutely lessens your chances of winning with how popular Holy Paladin is, and you're likely to experience this often. And yeah, so that's definitely why they're outside of the top 10. And number 1 in the honorable mentions, Demon Hunter, Windwalker Monk, and only Holy Paladin. It's going to be the first cleave on our list, and you'll notice how popular cleaves are this meta. I mean, I'm sure if you're doing Arena, you definitely notice these things. This is by far Demon Hunter's strongest comp right now. I definitely don't even think it's close. Being assisted with arguably the best melee DPS in Windwalker Monk, and arguably the best healer, especially defensively, in the Holy Paladin. So very high consistent pressure, accompanied with instant CC. You have Zuen Tiger, the Hunt, it could be the hardest hitting melee move in the game. It's very, very possible. And then, you have Weapons of Order. This creates significant pressure. And the Hunt, as I said, it's one of the hardest hitting moves. It's really, and because the mobility of the Demon Hunter is so high, they really are kind of a nuisance. Originally they were thought to be very, very bad, but they've really come a long way in my opinion. I think this team is just outside of the top 10. Strongest suit for both of them is their mobility, but it's at a cost. That cost is going to be lower end durability, which is why the Holy Paladin is the most important piece for this comp to succeed. That's why there's no other healer option in my opinion, because they offer so many defensives, and that's really the key for this team to make it further in my opinion. So like I said, I didn't put them in, but I figured I'd just mention it very quickly. If I had to put a 4 and 5, and that doesn't mean that they're worse than any of these 3, they're definitely just as good. It would be Arms Warrior, Frost Death Knight, and Holy Paladin, and then you know what? That really actually is it. That's like the only one that I'm thinking that would still be relevant. So here, I'm actually even gonna write it. So, like I said, I don't think it's necessarily worse than any of these on this list, by the way. So don't think that. I think it's definitely still good, and it could even be as good as the first on the honorable mentions. So I really think if I made this into a top 14, but I just feel like the title would be stupid, these 4 would be in it. I don't know how I would rank them between the 4, but they're all definitely good. So if you want to climb the ladder, you definitely can. So now we're done with our honorable mention section, and it's finally time, guys, for the top 10 to begin. So, dun dun dun. First up on the list, we have Enhancement Shaman, Arms Warrior, and Holy Paladin. So, our first in the top 10. This was the recent winner of the AWC Cup 3. I was like blanking on like what I said earlier. This recently won the latest AWC Cup. So obviously it definitely belongs in the top 10. You know, this team is known as Turbo, and it's actually been around for a while, but it hasn't been as good as this in a very long time. Um, Also worth noting, if you happen to be a Mistweaver monk for some reason, this actually might be your best overall comp. But obviously, Holy Paladin works best, and if you decide to be a Mistweaver monk, you will drop multiple spots. You will fall outside of the top 15. One of the strongest burst comps in the game with strong Ascendance, Wind Fury Totem, Doom Winds, and then obviously this is followed up with the Warrior's consistent pressure and Mortal Strike effect. I just forgot Bloodlust, Shamanism, obviously. Um, this pretty much all of this put together makes it almost impossible to heal through. You really need some sort of defensive CD to counter all this because you really won't live it. Arms Warrior right now might be the most versatile spec and works well with almost everything due to the best utility and great pressure that they provide. Arms is a healer's best friend, like flat out. You have Intervene, Overwatch, Spell Reflect, Ignore Pain, and Die by the Sword. A lot of defense to rotate. Obviously, they also have defensive stance at very, very minimal damage decrease. I feel like it's really worth it to always swap into it if you can. With obviously the enhancements, insane off heals, and the Holy Paladin's defensives like Blessing of Protection, Bop, and Blessing of Sacrifice. And obviously right now the one hindrance I feel like Enhancement Shaman has is that their off healing, as great as it is on a limited resource with mana, rather than, say, for example, a Ret Paladin with Holy Power. So because of that, I definitely think that's like the one weakness that they have. But regardless, they did win the tournament, so gotta give them credit. Number 9. We have Frost Death Knight, Windwalker Monk, Holy Paladin, or Resto Shaman. Now, obviously, that's why I wanted to show the chart first, because, Holy Paladin is very, very common, and it's rightfully so, but I always like to try to put another healer in to show that, you can still be very, very good with another healer. In my opinion, I feel like Resto Shaman gets the nod over Discipline Priest in this case. So, Frost DK... Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. Definitely one of the best melee cleaves right now. Works best with the Holy Paladin. But I really feel like Resto Shaman is almost just as good for this team and probably would still be in the 9 spot. Really high sustained pressure and damage, but also has great setup opportunity kills. Frost Death Knight has a strong presence in the AWC, and I see that trend continuing, especially in ladder play. I'm noticing it more and more. One setup that they can do with this comp is actually the majority is set up by the Frost Death Knight, where the monk is really focusing on just unloading. Even with the limited stuns that they have, they still provide the main setup, which is kind of crazy. Their biggest weakness is their survivability, or this comp would actually be much higher. And I'm pretty sure... No, I'll save that. They start... So this is how their comp gets set up. So the Death Knight is... The Frost Death Knight, sorry. Starts with Death Grip. Follows it up with Blinding Sheet, Disorienting both the targets. Follow this up by Frost Wire Room for great damage and obviously for the 50% slow. And then lastly, they're going to do Abomination Limb, keeping the targets in place and keep pulling them back. While all this is going on, and he's pretty much keeping on 2 targets on himself, the Windwalker is going to do Leg Sweep, which is an AoE stun for 3 seconds. And then, unload with their great AoE, Fist of Fury is a good example. And all that crazy output that they got going for them, they're most likely going to nab a kill at some point. The reason why I say Holy Paladin probably is better, so I think it's the 3rd talent. Yeah, it's the 3rd talent row. There's Fist of Justice. There's what's it called? Reparations? It's something like that, which is a castable disorient. But then there's also an AoE Holy Disorient ability. I'm blanking on the name. It's Holy something, which basically would still act as a Blinding Sheet. So it kind of gets the same role. So just in case that happens to be on cooldown, they could sub that in. And this comp was recently #1 in North America 3v3 ladder. As of 2 weeks ago, this was the #1 comp. So it's pretty cool. Now, number 8. Trying to move it along. We have Shatter Priest, Arms Warrior, and Resto Shaman or Holy Paladin. I actually think in this team, Resto Shaman is the preferred for once. Yeah, this is actually the first time throughout this video where Holy Paladin isn't the preferred and it's the second option. So, high sustained damage and pressure from the Warrior, and instant CC and setup kills from the Shatter Priest. That's this comp's strong suit right there. Their biggest strong suit is their defensive capability, which gets amplified. If you actually pick the Holy Paladin, it actually will get amplified. I've recently went over Warrior's defenses, so I won't repeat all that again. But now I'm going to add the Shadow Priest, what they are going to offer on top of the Warrior stuff. They have strong off healing, Shadow Mend. Then they also have 2 impenetrable abilities with Dispersion and Greater Fade for really, really great defensives. And then obviously, if you did happen to pick the Holy Paladin, you'd have Blessing of Sacrifice, you'd have Blessing of Protection, and then you'd also have Divine Shield for yourself. So it's just additional pieces. This comp CC is also top rate. You have Fear, Silence, multiple stuns, an AoE stun from the Resto Shaman's totem, and then you have a polymorph in Hex. So Resto creates easier kill windows for all this. They have a larger CC chain than the Holy Paladin, so that's like the swap between the two, the defensives for the CC chain. Some other great utility used together to get support from the Warrior that I haven't mentioned was actually War Banner, and then the Shadow Priest could also bring Mass Dispel. We have Rallying Cry, Overwatch, which basically gives a spell reflect once you do intervene. I think it actually lasts longer. The intervene lasts for like 6 seconds. And I would probably say this is one of the hardest comps right now to kill. Especially for setup-based comps, that's where they'll really, really stop you, because you have to wait on your cooldowns for the setup. They'll always have some sort of defensive ability at the ready. And I would say their weaknesses is going to be against cleaves like Turbo, which was the number 10 pick. Number 7. Holy Paladin's back. Even with the nerfs, man, they just still are so good. They're just made for the meta. Anyway, so alrighty, something a little different. We have our first double caster that's in the top 10, which is kind of unusual for this meta. But this is debatably... is it, though? Okay, it's definitely one of the best. I won't say it's arguably like the best one, but it's definitely one of the best double casters in the game right now. Which there's definitely 1 or 2 exceptions, which we'll go over later, which outshine them. It's one of the best comps for dealing with melee cleaves, though, due to the mobility with Travel Form and Ghost Wolf. You have 2 Blessing of Freedoms in under a 30-second refresh with the Holy Paladin, and then obviously we have the original Sprint, Leap, Charge, Roar, whatever you like. Just a whole lot of mobility for getting out of a lot of scenarios. More like a run and gun style of play. Also has double hybrid here, so you have a lot of great off healing on top of the Paladin's already great healing. This is also getting the defenses from the Holy Paladin as well. This comp can be a pain in the ass to take down, to be honest, for melees, especially for melees. This is also arguably Balanced Druid's best comp, believe it or not. Since they're all over the ladder, you wouldn't think that, and a bunch of different comps, but this really could be their best one. The damage of this comp has to be looked out for. You have to really respect it and learn when it's about to come out, because if you don't, you're gonna be done. Really, the only counter to it would be a Warrior with Overwatch and Spell Reflect. But yeah, for the most part, they're gonna put a hurting on a lot. Good sustain from Dots and from Flame Shock, and obviously Moon and Sunfire for consistency. But that's really not the strong suit. It's really about the burst. It's no joke. You have Stormkeeper, Earth Shock, Lava Burst, Lightning Lasso to hold them down. Then obviously the Moonkins burst with Incarnation. the Kyrian Invoke ability, which is a 15% damage increase, and plus the Mastery. And then you're definitely going to want to use your Damage Trinket while you're popping all these other cooldowns. Definitely make a macro if you're a balanced druid. Put all those together. It'll really, really save you some time. And then they're going to unload multiple Star Surges that can crit upwards from anywhere to 10 to 15k repeatedly. Good setup CC for burst. You know, you have Root, Entangling Root, and then into the Beam combo. You have Hodge, you have Lightning Lasso, Spammable Cyclone. Also, strong choice against other casters because of the majority of their damage actually being instant and not casting. It actually makes it easy for them to avoid other casters by using the pillars. So it's definitely really, really good. And I would say their weakness is going to be setup comps like Windwalker Mage or Rogue Mage. That's definitely going to be their downfall. Number 6. Dun dun dun. Okay. We have Hunter, and it's going to be either Marksman or Survival. I'm going to go over both. Feral Druid and Discipline Priest. This is our first Discipline Priest. It's definitely the best one, and we'll get into why. Now, for the Hunters, I think, in my opinion, Marksman is preferred, but I think Survival is still really, really good for this comp. It's called Jungle Cleave. It's been around for a very long time. But yeah, I'll definitely go over both. I actually think even if it's Survival rather than Marksman, it's probably still in the top 10, but Marksman makes it a little bit better. And yeah, this is actually the first time that I just put Hunter rather than an actual spec. So, I wouldn't recommend BM though. But if you absolutely feel like you need to be BM for some reason, you'll definitely fall outside of the top 15. But that's also probably your best comp for Beast Mastery. But you'll fall outside of the top 15 for sure. Similar to Rogue Mage, Hunter Feral has been a long-term marriage and seems no matter the meta they could be successful. Both Feral and Hunter have high burst and consistent damage, even more so as a Marksman accompanied with the Feral Bleeds, instant CC from the Hunter with Intimidation and Freezing Trap combo. Also you have Mighty Bash and Fear. It's just a really solid CC chain. Discipline Priest is by far this duo's best for all the offensive support that they're going to bring. This is even more important if the Hunter is Survival, because you're going to need Dark Archangel. It's the perfect offensive utility, especially for this comp. If you don't know what it does, it's going to increase the Priest and the allies with Atonement's damage by 15% for 8 seconds. It's definitely going to increase your kill opportunities, make the burst even higher for the Feral. With how high Feral and Marksman's burst already is, in addition to that 15%, it's going to be insane. It really is a lot. Feral also accompanies this with instant off heals to alleviate pressure. It could even do instant Entangling Roots if it had to, which I don't see why you would necessarily do that. No, it does make sense because the proc is the same. That's why I'm like debating it right now. They also have decent defensives with Bear Form, Frenzied Regen, and obviously the Conduit that procs your Frenzied Regen once you drop below 40% health every, 45 seconds. Biggest weakness is melee cleaves. They're going to target the Disc Priest and try to take it down, so that's probably going to be your biggest dilemma. Noteworthy for 2v2, Feral's best comp is actually with the Discipline Priest, so it actually just applies even more so with this. Has to do with all that offensive utility that they offer, and also, you know, they have good damage as well. Mind games, it just adds to the pressure. If you are running double DPS 2v2, Hunter, you know, is also a decent option. If you have to do double DPS, Hunter Feral would work well. So yeah, that's gonna cover it for them. Number 5. We have Rogue, Mage, Priest, RMP, and then we also have Holy Paladin. I put sub/A, that's going to be sub or assassination, and Mage I put any. The best one, hands down, is sub, fire, Discipline Priest. That's going to be your best option, but I put the other ones because they are still good, and we'll get into all that right now. But like I said, mainly going to be focusing on Sub Rogue, Fire Mage, Discipline Priest. That's going to be your best option overall. So, RMP, another original. It's actually really annoying, this meta. Best variant is, like I said, Sub, Fire, Dis. But recently, in AWC Cup 3, Assassination has seen even more play than from the stats that I showed you. It's more of a niche option. And you'll definitely fall down a little bit on the list if you use Assassination, but it's still good. This is also the best comp for any rogue spec in general, so Assassination or Outlaw. It's going to be the best comp for Arcane Mage. If you have to be Arcane, this would be your best option. And I think this is actually Frost Mage's second best comp. It's their second best comp. So, and we'll go over the one that's better later on. Burst from Fire Mage and Lockdown from the Rogue is why they're so strong. This is another great piece for the offensive utility and additional damage output that they offer. Fire Mage is just so good right now. You know, dealing the best damage for any caster. So hard to kill for a cloth wearer. It's insane. You know, they have Blink, Triune Shield, Ice Block that heals, and Cocoon. With multiple schools of magic, they always have an answer to kick. You know, can spam their polymorph when kicked. If they get kicked doing that, they could obviously use fire or frost moves. Can Ring of Frost when kicked in fire or arcane, and can deal damage when they're kicked in frost or arcane, so they could just go back to their fire move. So they pretty much always have an answer. All of this with rogue shutdown capability with their CC and their setup ability. Disciplines, additional utility, and pressure. This comp is easily a top 5, or it could be even better, but I just figured I'd put it at the 5 to show some light on some other comps that aren't as well known. I feel like they're known, but it's just not as well known. This comp is so good that it has guaranteed setups for kills. It's guaranteed they could get off a couple per match. Is also guaranteed to force cooldowns on every kill attempt you're gonna force some sort of cooldown. They have to. That's how dangerous they are. Until all the cooldowns are burned, they're going to get their win. If that happens, and if it happens quickly, they're going to get their win. The best 2v2 comp for Rogue Mage is actually Sub Rogue and Fire Mage as well. You could, even without the healer, you could be successful. I figured I'd throw that in there. The Rogue could easily focus on re-stealthing, while the Fire Mage is using pyrokinesis to get their combustion back a little bit faster. That's what they'll do in between their setup kills. So yeah, this team probably offers the most upside, and it probably also offers the most setup kills. Like, they'll make the most opportunities out of any other spec in the any other comp in the top 10. So here we go. Top 4. We got Arms Warrior, Ret Paladin, Resto Shaman. This is the first one that you could use any of the big 3. You could use Resto Shaman, Discipline Priest, or Holy Paladin. Any of them will be good. It's really situational, and then the main pieces are Arms Warrior and Ret Paladin. First Ret Pally on the list, actually, and it's a doozy. Even after the nerf to Word of Glory, Ret is still a top 3 melee in my opinion. I feel like only Arms Warrior and Windwalker Monk are ahead of them. They are that good. I don't feel like that's a hot take at this point, even after the nerf. Ret is a unique hybrid, giving some of the best off-healing instantly with Word of Glory on an unlimited resource with Holy Power. That's what's making them very unique. It also heals for almost all their health, depending on how low your health was. This makes them a healer's best friend, another one, with additions like Divine Shield, Blessing of Protections, and Blessing of Sacrifice. And even with all that, I haven't mentioned their best part, the Burst. Some of the strongest during Avenging Wrath, their wings, and also using Divine Toll for the damage, also increasing the mastery as well, can nearly one-hit KO. And then when they're off of Avenging Wrath waiting for their cooldown, can focus all Holy Power usage on Word of Glories, which is giving excellent off-heals. That's pretty much their main focus, because they don't have too much sustain, so they're going to really focus on just straight doing Word of Glories. And I also wanted to elaborate a little bit more on Ret, because they haven't been on the list for me to really go on about them, so I really wanted to show their strong suits. Their biggest weakness, and everybody knows this, is their mobility. But for this team, it really doesn't matter. As of right now, I feel like with all the defensives that the Ret Paladin has, combined with all the defensives that the Warrior has that I went over, this pretty much makes them the best melee cleave in the game, I feel like, or it's very close. Now quickly for the healer. So this is the first comp that any of the main 3 healers, Resto Shaman, Discipline Priest, or Holy Pally, can all be utilized. It really depends on the matchup. Resto Shaman may have the most upside, yeah, I would say probably Resto Shaman. This comp is probably the hardest to land a kill on in the game as well. It's really, really hard with all the defensives. It's just insane. So next, we're finally here. Finally here, everybody. Top 3. Top 3. So, Elemental, Fire, Holy Paladin. So the next double caster DPS comp, and now we're in the top 3. Probably the best double caster cleave in the game. This is the comp I was talking about, where this is likely Frost Mage's best comp. But again, Fire is the way superior option, and if you decide to pick Frost, you'll probably drop out of the top 15. But if you're a Frost player, definitely look out for this comp. The damage from this comp can be pretty much better than any other comp. Easily killing healers in a single stun lock, which is why Holy Paladin is the best option for their Hammer of Justice. That 6-second stun, it's really, really important for this comp. Stormkeeper with Lava Burst, Primordial Wave combo. Obviously now also what the Fire Mage brings, which is Combustion. It's enough to kill the opposing team healer in a single Hodge from the Holy Paladin. At this point in the video, I feel like I've explained what makes all 3 of these specs so great. So that pretty much covers it at this point. I don't want to keep reiterating the same things. I feel like that just is adding wasted time. I don't want to waste anybody's time. Number 2, Windwalker Monk, Fire Mage, Holy Paladin. So here comes the monks. Top 2. This comp makes me laugh on paper because it's just funny. Best healer in the game, best pure damage caster, best damage for melee. It just takes all the best specs and forces them to work together. Between combustion damage along with burst and sustain from the Windwalker, it's really hard to survive their kill windows. Can polymorph spam and quickly turn and unload on the next target. All this damage comboed with the best healer in the game for all the defensives and insanely strong instant heals. And obviously they're also going to bring Hammer of Justice for kill attempts. This comp is nothing to sneeze at. Basically the full package. Great CC, insane burst, great defensives, and even good sustain from the Windwalker Monk. And yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say about them too, because I've covered all 3 of the specs. And last, I'll spend more time on this one because it's number 1. Shatter Priest, Fire Mage, Holy Paladin, another double caster. One thing to mention, I feel like, by the way, anything on this list could be arguably the number 1. All of these are very, very good. Look, even number 10. Number 10 just won the AWC, and number 9 was number 1 on the ladder in North America. So that's just me going to show you that any of these can definitely be very successful. So, all of them are really, really good. Anyone could be one. So, but let's go over this one now. Shatter Priest, Fire Mage, Holy Paladin. It's known as Shatter. Pretty much the number 1 comp on this list, and might come as a shock because it's a double caster. So their strong suit is their insane burst damage from Combustion, the Fire Mage, along with the CC setup opportunities from the Holy Paladin, and obviously everything that the Shadow Priest brings that I've mentioned multiple times throughout this video. It's a lot of CC. Can take down healers in one single Hodge or Psychic Horror, along with Meteor and Combustion. Fire Mage has a 1-hit KO, basically, or a 2-hit KO combination that they do. So how it's going to start off is either the Shadow Priest is going to Psychic Horror or Hodge the target. Then the Fire Mage is going to have Combustion, Radiant Spark, and then they're going to Meteor. But the catch here is the Meteor only has to hit only one target. It could hit really, really hard, and then follow this up by Fireball or Pyro. If Meteor hits the single target like that, it's going to hit upwards of 20 to 25k. And then obviously the Fireball should hit, again, it sounds crazy, but also upwards of 20k. So I highly recommend checking out Sidhu's video breaking down the combo for this, because it's really, really important to know. But that's also, regardless whether they did that combination or not, even if they didn't decide to pick Meteor, this comp is still number 1 on the list, because the kill opportunities are still really, really big, and they could just burn people down. It's also very defensive with how hard it is to kill the Fire Mage. You know, Triune Shield, Ice Block, all that stuff that I went over. Same thing with the Shadow Priest, 2 Impenetrables, and all the defensives that the Holy Paladin has. Not only is there Hammer of Justice, you have Psychic Horror, Polymorph Silence, that Breath move to disorient from the Fire Mage. It's just crazy CC. Also really defensive, as I said. So I just feel like all of it put together probably makes it the safest number 1 pick. That's kind of why I put it there, because it's really, really safe. And you should really, as long as everybody is geared and on the same page, coordinating, I feel like you can have relatively easy success. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I tried to put a lot of detail into this one. I really hope that you all enjoyed it, got informed, and it helped some people out in making their new comps in the way that Shadowlands is turning. Like I said, Blizzard is definitely making it a point to do a lot of small, frequent changes, and I pretty much think that's going to continue from here on out. And yeah, if you're enjoying the content, I would really greatly appreciate any like or sub to the channel or the video. I seriously appreciate everybody that's been giving me support. And as always, guys, thank you for tuning in.